Roots into Law with Stephanie Smith. Supported by Tiger Law, a new breed of law firm for you and your business.
Hello and welcome to the first instalment of my Roots into Law series. I'm joined today by Tiger's own Leonie Savoury. Welcome, Leonie, and thank you for taking the time to be part of this today. So Let's get straight into the questions and find out about your route into law. Can you please explain to everybody listening what your role is at Tiger Law?
I'm a solicitor with Tiger Law. I have been qualified for a year and a half now. I work in civil disputes and litigation dispute resolution.
Okay, lovely, thank you. And just in terms of your academic studies over the years, let's just focus on that for a little while. What did you want to be when you were growing up?
When I was very little, I wanted to be a nurse. And until my mum asked me why I wanted to be a nurse, and I said because boys are doctors and girls are nurses. And she shot that down pretty quickly and said, boys can be, girls can be doctors too. So I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a GP for a long time. And then things like athlete's foot and kept getting mentioned to me and having to deal with maybe the not so nice side of being a GP. And yeah, I mean, it was still in the back of my mind until the end of A-levels. I definitely wanted to do something that helped people.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was more my grades, even though they weren't horrific, put me off that towards the end.
Okay, fair enough. And prior to law school, can you explain a little bit about your academic background, please?
Yes, so I went to grammar school. And from there, I went to the University of Lincoln to study accountancy. I loved maths and did maths A-level. However, life got in the way. I didn't necessarily want to go to university straight to 18, but it was the thing to do. And it soon became apparent it wasn't the thing for me to do. So I actually stopped going. And stopped my academics completely. Went to work in the hospitality industry, restaurants, bars, pubs, management, supervision, became a licensee. And it wasn't until I was pregnant with my second child that I decided actually I needed to get something else going in my brain. Okay. And law seemed to come to me like an epiphany.
Okay, so you just felt like you almost wanted to reignite, that.
Yeah, and it wasn't necessary to. It wasn't necessary to get a career. Yeah. It was at the time. It was just something to do in my spare time.
Yeah.
To get the brain working again.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I'm quite similar in terms of when I was younger. I just almost wanted to live a little, I guess. And actually, I don't regret coming into law later in life. And I don't think I would have been able to do it when I was much younger. So, I can completely understand why you would make that.
Yeah, I mean, if I'd have chosen to go into law at 18, it would have been the same story. I would have stopped by the first term of university and I wouldn't be where I am now.
Yeah, and I think actually that's a really important message. If I think about the young people in my life, like my son, he's nearly finished university now, but my daughter and my niece, they're both at that time, one's doing their A-levels, one's doing their GCSEs, and I've said to both of them, actually, there's no pressure to do it now. There's certainly no pressure from us because it can be done at any time. We know it can. So, and obviously we're proof of that. So
definitely,
that's fabulous. And so my next question then really was going to be what influenced you to pursue the kind of later route, I guess, than the traditional kind of straight out of school route. But I guess, as you said, it wasn't really a particular thing. It was more just the way your life turned out.
Yeah, I suppose, and law specifically was because my life experiences and just day-to-day life made me start questioning things. And I found myself, looking things up and researching.
Mhm.
You know, working in a pub, you get customers on the other side of the bar going, oh, I've had this problem and I've had this problem, and I go, oh, I'll have a look at that. And
Yeah.
I realized that my brain needed, and I needed to know the answers to these things, even though it was nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
I found myself going home and looking it up to find out what was the legal stance.
Yeah.
And it was like a flashbulb moment where I went, oh, I might actually go into this.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay, and when you decided to pursue, you know, your legal studies, did you know about any alternative routes at that time, or did you just know about, you know, can you just clarify to anybody listening which route it specifically that you took?
Okay, so I did my LLB with the Open University, which took me, it was 6 modules I did over 5.5 years. Following that, I did the LPC with University of Law. I did that part-time over 2 years, which overlapped with my period of recognised training.
Okay.
I actually finished my period of recognised training, and then I did my PSC and then qualified.
That's exciting. And so were you studying and working at the same time, or was it only the training contract? You know, when did you start working?
So when I started the law degree, I was on I was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went on maternity leave. So I had 9 months maternity leave. But then I went back to working part-time in pub, just to subsidise income, really.
Yeah.
I also then started volunteering for Citizens Advice Bureau. So I did that 1 day a week, as well as working at the pub, as well as having the children and studying.
You do, yeah.
So I stayed, I met Vanessa, and I worked with her for a while. It soon became apparent I needed to do more hours with her, and I stopped Citizens Advice Bureau, and I stopped working at the pub as well. So yeah, it became a case of my training was the only thing I was doing.
Right, okay, fair enough. And so it's a question that I get asked quite a lot, because, you know, most people that know me know that I work and study at the same time. Is there any insight that you can give to people who either haven't started studying yet or are considering it, or have just started out, in terms of balancing work, life, study, children, home, you know, all those bits and pieces?
Routine.
Okay.
Routine is absolutely key, and sticking to it as well. And it soon just becomes second nature.
Yeah.
So I would be at work, or during the day be at work, have the children would go to bed, I'd have an hour for myself, and then I'd study until bedtime. And I gave myself 1 night off a week.
Fabulous.
Every day.
Yeah. But it is worth it in the end, though, isn't it? Of course.
Oh, definitely. And there were nights of tears and tiredness, and I can't do this, and I just want to give up, and I need my life back.
Yeah.
But constantly knowing that it's going to end. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, definitely.
And I think as well, when you then reflect on the time that you've spent doing that, overall it's actually not that long. Although when you're in the thick of it, you know, it's a bit like when you have a newborn baby. At the time it feels like this is going to go on forever, and you're going to be up in the night, but then actually before you know it, they're 3, you know, and then they're off to school,
definitely.
and, you know, it just
8.5 years of my life I did that. And I mean, I find myself now, I have to occupy myself in the evenings. I can't just switch off.
Can't just
Well, I do my crochet. But it's a struggle. It is a struggle. And, you know, at the end of the day, at the end of the working day, all we want to do is relax. We don't necessarily want to hit the books. But it is what it is, and it's a means to an end. And as you say, before you know it, you're done.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. And so if you were to have your time again now, say you were considering starting studying, would you choose any other route, do you think? Or is this, you know, now you have a little bit more knowledge about what's out there, do you think you would choose this route again?
Possibly, although now, of course, it's changing with the SQE, and I'm not up to scratch with actually what that entails. I did look at Silex. I have to say, but it was a brief, fleeting look, just because somebody that worked at Citizens Advice with me was following Silex, but I knew nothing about it, absolutely nothing about it.
Which is very common, you know.
Yeah, and the university was, you know, once you've done this, you do your LPC,
Yeah.
you do the training, you go, you know, you qualify.
Okay.
It's great that it's getting put out there more now, because if I'd have known more about it, I may have gone that way.
Yeah, I mean, I to be perfectly honest, I don't know a great deal about the more traditional route, I guess, or even with the Open University. So I can only really speak for Silex. But it for me, it suits me. You know, it's very flexible, and so I you know, if I was starting over again, that's, you know, I don't think I would choose another route. So I guess you just do what is suitable at the time, and you know, you just kind of go with it, I guess. So
yeah, I suppose I don't know what it is with Silex, but with the period of recognised training and what was the training contract, having to try different areas of law, was a bonus for me. I went into law, I came into law thinking I wanted to do employment and family, and I don't do any employment or family now. And it was only through touching on the different areas that I realised that actually litigation was where I belonged.
Yeah, it's a funny one actually, because that is something that people do talk about often, and I guess it does depend on your journey. So if we were going to compare the experience of the training contract, say, to the Silex route, if you are going down the Silex route and you're already working in a law firm, if you were working, say, as a support staff member, so maybe a secretary, for me, for example, I do have experience working in other departments, and as part of my study, I have studied about 6 or 7 different areas as well. So if I were to be looking for a role, I could potentially transfer my skills over to those areas. So, but yes, you're right. You know, it's a good opportunity if you don't know which area you would like to specialise in, or if you're set on one, that does give you an opportunity to explore others. Whereas obviously Silex lawyers tend to specialise in one area just because of the nature of their, you know, of their training. But again, you know, if you suddenly decided that you wanted to work in a different area, then, you know, it's not difficult to transfer those skills over. So, but why do you think you ended up, or what was the reason you ended up in litigation and not employment and family, which is what you thought?
Well, as most of the Tigers know, I actually, once I'd started my training contract and working with Vanessa, I actually wanted to go into private client. So I've done a few of these, and I was concentrating on private client and just assisting with some litigation here and there. Arguing has always been one of my favourite hobbies, and it was right at the end that I said to Vanessa, actually I want to qualify into litigation. It wasn't that I didn't want to do litigation before. It was that I thought, can I handle the stress, the time? You know, it's a stressful. It's known for being stressful. And I wasn't sure that being older than, you know, fresh out of uni, people who've qualified, and having the children and having the external stresses as well as the stress of the role, I wasn't sure that I could take that on. When it came down to it and it came to crunch time, I realised that actually I wouldn't be happy if I wasn't in litigation, and that is actually what I want to do, and I could handle the stresses and everything because that's where my passion lies, and I would overcome that all. So I think it's always been in the background.
I mean, I think the profession as a whole is a stressful profession.
There is no doubt
about that, and depending on the area of law, it has its own stresses, you know, and I think that as time goes by, it's something that most people learn to manage. And I'm not saying that we have to do that, but it's a coping mechanism. You know, we are specialists, we are well trained, and we do something that other people, you know, your general Joe public are not able to do, which is why they pay us to do it, basically. And as part of that privilege, we have to take the stress that comes with it.
Oh yes, so, definitely. I mean, but working in family, you've got court orders coming in, and sometimes with ridiculous deadlines. You also get the clients who've paid you money and then still don't get the result because it's just the way that the cookie crumbles sometimes. But I'm glad I made that decision. I don't think I would have been happy if I hadn't have done.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, that leads me actually nicely onto the next question. You did touch on it. I mean, in terms of specific skills and people entering the legal profession, do you think there is anything in particular that is of benefit to people, the type of people that want to become lawyers?
Interpersonal skills. I had an interview yesterday, and we were talking about networking. It's not at the moment, obviously, due to the pandemic, it's not what it was before. We're not all sitting down at breakfasts and going to do's and things, and it's pretty much LinkedIn and joining webinars and meetings that way. But even if there's no can't think of the word, if you don't necessarily join in to begin with, just being there, listening, seeing what people are talking about, and getting into that world, as it was, and learn. But interpersonal skills, I think, play a big part, because we are dealing with clients and a variety of clients who are all going to have different expectations.
I mean, I guess I've kind of done the networking in the old world, and now, of course, I'm doing the networking in the new world. But the aspiring, lawyers who are still at university and things, or just coming into training contracts, of course, they will only know this new world, I guess, won't they? And probably, what I think you're kind of referring to is, even if people are joining into things and not necessarily contributing, at some point they're going to have to build up the courage to contribute, because that's, we have to deal with people we don't know about very personal issues sometimes. So you need to be brave enough to be a conversation starter, I guess.
And that's what I mean, just joining in to start with, not necessarily thinking, I've got to say something, but gradually building up to it. I mean, even when I joined LinkedIn, I didn't say something on LinkedIn for ages because I was terrified of saying something I shouldn't be saying. And now it's second nature to just post something on LinkedIn. And I think it's the same with just the face-to-face networking,
Yeah, and I think, even LinkedIn has changed, over the last year. I think it's changed. I mean, I know for myself, when I was on there previously, I had a very professional photograph on there that was taken from my old employer, and I just thought that was who we could be on there, was just this work person. And then as time has gone on, I thought, actually, do you know what? You're now seeing me in my house. Why can't the people on LinkedIn see me as everyday me? So I do think that kind of, the networking is still there for a reason, but it's a much more kind of open door world now, and people are much more happier to kind of give up their time and have conversations. People have got more time. That's the thing, ultimately, haven't they? So and, I mean, in your specific area of law, so talking about litigation, are there specific skills that you think make a good litigator?
Oh, that's a tough one. Again, being able to listen, being able to weigh up pros and cons a lot, as well as being able to be diplomatic in explanation. So, you can have a client who will come to you and say, I'm owed this money, blah, 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 you need to go and get it for me. And, they won't have thought about what the risks could be, and there are risks, that there could be some downsides, that when it gets to court, it could all go the other way. Being able to weigh up pros and cons of things is definitely a skill that's needed in litigation, and being able to voice those.
Okay. And do you think, if I think about my own journey in my area of law, a lot of what you learn comes with time. Do you think that that's true for litigation as well. You know, you're not expected to go into a situation guns blazing, you know, kind of being able to know everything. You know, you have to build up the confidence.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, we still have to research stuff. It's, you know, it's not all up here.
Yeah.
I don't have the entire white book rammed into my brain. Yeah, definitely, it comes with time. But again, that's where training really is useful. You know, as brilliant as the LPC may be, nothing compares you for the real life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ring.
No, I agree. And of course, then you are dealing with the human beings, you know, who we will work with. You know,
and you're dealing with their lives, their livelihoods.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, and it can be make or break for them. And being able to deal with that can be quite daunting sometimes. But there we are.
And if you had to choose another area of law that you were going to start working in tomorrow, which area would you choose?
Ooh, I've done so many in my training. Definitely not property.
Yeah, okay.
I did like private client. I did really like private client, which is why I was going to go down that route. So probably if I was going to say, right, this is too much now, I don't want to be a litigator anymore, I probably would revert back to private client. Although having said that, I still do like family. And it still does intrigue me. I did do a module in that in my LPC. Having said that, I would be starting from scratch.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, but you know, that's
because of course we didn't do family when I did my training.
No.
So I didn't get any training in family.
And when you reflect on the last 12 months, how would you say this has impacted your work in any respect? You know, because obviously what's happened over the last year was just...
In terms of the pandemic?
Yeah, you know, positive, negative, however.
Personally, not much, because I worked remotely anyway.
Okay.
Having the children at home was a different hurdle to cross. Having said that, they were very good at knowing when I'm working. But positively, I think because I worked remotely before, I almost found myself making excuses for the fact that I was working remotely.
Right. Okay.
And it almost, I don't know, there was this sort of, I work remotely, I'm working from home. And I was told once by a lecturer, never tell someone you work from home, always say you work remotely, because people get a vision of you sitting at home watching television instead of working. So the past 12 months has really changed and shifted that perception of working from home. And now everyone's saying they work from home because they are. But 12 months previously, I'm working remotely and not working from home. And I think that has been fantastic, really, and shows that people can work remotely, people can look after themselves.
Without we are grown ups, we can do this. We
can do it. We still care about our clients and we still will get the work done for them, even no matter where we're working.
It's amazing how a global pandemic can shift the mindset, isn't it?
And I don't think a lot of people realise how much it has, but being someone who worked from home before,
you can really see it.
I can really see that it's just because it's more generally accepted now, and people won't necessarily notice that themselves, apart from that, we're not in the office, we're at home. But from going from being I'm working remotely, I'm working from home, to being I'm the same as everybody else.
Okay, well, that's nice. I mean, my next question actually was going to be, could you give me at least one positive to come out of the last 12 months? Because obviously there's a lot of negative, you know, for everybody, and whether that's personal or, you know, professional. So, I mean, that in itself is you know, really positive. So is there anything kind of personal that has been positive for you from the last 12 months?
I think, as well as a wider generalized perception of working from home, the people closest to me have realized that actually when I'm working from home, I am working. You know, it's not okay. I was getting people sort of knocking on the door and phoning me and things. And I'm going, I'm working 9 to 5. I work. Yeah, but you're at home. But I'm working. I'm at my desk. I'm working. And because now everyone else is doing it, everyone realizes.
You
So I get
are
left
actually
alone.
working.
I get left alone and I'm not having to have so many of those conversations where I'm going, no, but you don't understand, I am working.
Oh, that's lovely. And so in terms of your future then, what do you hope for your future career in law? Are you allowed to tell us, or are you going to share?
Oh, my future career.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm just excited to be on this whole journey, especially with Tiger, the amount, the time, you know, it's just, we've grown so much recently and it's absolutely fantastic. And just to see where this goes.
Yeah.
Really, really excited to see what happens with Tiger.
Fabulous.
When I always say to Vanessa, I'm her number 4, because I was the 4th one. And to now be, we're nearly at 20 now.
Yeah. I think
it's just incredible, absolutely incredible. And it is just really exciting to see, you know, we're now second office.
Yeah.
In the pandemic,
I know, madness.
It's just, you know, if we can do this in this situation, what are we going to actually be capable of?
I know, in the new world of, you know, normality, madness, isn't it? And so what is your final piece of advice for students wishing to pursue a career in law?
Keep an open mind as to which area. Get out there, you know, the people on LinkedIn, there are names that crop up and they stick in people's minds. Be you. You know, don't be the person you think the employers want you to be. Don't be the person you think client wants you to be, because you will not be happy. You need to find an employer that is going to value you for you. Yeah.
And again, you know, I think that's something that has become extremely evident over the last 12 months, because we have all shifted and we've been allowed to be ourselves in our own homes, and
definitely
and lots more people have kind of opened up and put their hands up and said, you know, this isn't working, or that isn't working, or this is great, or that isn't great, you know. So I think there's just I mean, I personally think that the legal profession has kind of rolled forward maybe 5 or 10 years in this last 12 months.
I mean, even the training contract stages themselves, you know, you find yourself going, to become a solicitor, I need to do training. Okay. Therefore, you apply for everyone and you just want one to stick. You just want one to stick, and you don't care who it is, because you need that to qualify.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's definitely going to need to change, because, you know, you could end up working for a firm that doesn't appreciate who you are.
No.
And it can be quite demoralizing having to spend 2 years of your life working in a firm that doesn't actually appreciate you for who you are, because of the way you presented yourself, because it's the way you think they want you to be.
Yeah, no, I think the training contract route, you know, the whole process is brutal. Like,
I did one application. I did a day and I got through to the interview day. It was the worst experience of my life. It was horrific.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is why I'm trying to educate people about, you know, there are so many routes now, you know, and now with the SQE and the CPQ, it's going to change even more, you know, and I think that the way that both of those routes into qualifying are going is going to offer people more practical experience, which in you know, my opinion, is priceless. You know, if you can get your foot in the door, that's one of the best stepping stones, I think, to qualifying, and then choose the way, you know, you want to go. But you need to, you know, kind of get in somewhere if you can, even if it is in a secretarial or admin role, or just something, just get your foot in there. And like you say, you don't want to be in a firm where you are there for 2 years trying to mold yourself into somebody that you think that employer, you know, wants you to be, basically. So
basically, yeah.
Well, that's lovely. Thank you ever so much.
You're more than welcome. And I've just noticed your top.
Oh, I know.
Love it.
I know. I couldn't resist, to be perfectly honest. I saw it a little while ago and I thought, I've got to have it.
Oh,
have it.
Tiger through and through.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you ever so much.
You're more than welcome.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Roots into Law with Stephanie Smith. Supported by Tiger Law, a new breed of law firm for you and your business. Find us on YouTube or wherever you normally listen to your podcasts, and be sure to click subscribe.